on the brink of despair, ready to give up on everything, she found a forgotten letter. Words from someone long gone, yet holding a secret powerful enough to rewrite her destiny. Those yellowed pages revealed a hidden truth, a message that turned her pain into strength, her failure into a journey. This is the story of how the past can redeem a future if you dare to discover what was written. Welcome to Beyond Belief, where broken lives are restored, miracles happen, and hope writes the final chapter. These aren't just stories, they're proof. There was a night when everything seemed to lose its meaning. The rain poured heavily outside, drumming against the windows like a soulless clock, ticking away minutes that felt like hours. Inside that small gray apartment, Anna, or what was, left of her and stared into the void. Her body was still breathing, but her soul had given up long ago. It was hard to remember the last time she believed something good could still happen. Over the past few months, everything she knew had fallen apart. Her dream job taken away in a ruthless layoff, a lifelong friendship broken in painful silence, and worst of all, the sudden loss of her mother, her anchor, her safe place. Loneliness sat on her chest like concrete. That night, Anna dragged herself to the living room without really knowing why. Maybe it was boredom, maybe desperation, or maybe something else, something she couldn't yet name. She let her eyes wander across the bookshelf, unfocused, numb. And then something stopped her. An old box, dusty, tucked away in the most forgotten corner of the room. It was a box she had promised herself never to open, one of the last things her mother had left behind. Anna stood there for a few moments, feeling the invisible weight of the moment. She should leave it. She should crawl back into bed and hide under the covers like she had been doing for weeks. But something, a quiet voice deep inside, whispered, "Open it." With trembling hands, she pulled the box closer. The wood creaked in protest, as if it too knew that this night was about to change everything. Inside were faded photographs, old Christmas cards, a silver necklace, and at the bottom, carefully folded, a yellowed envelope addressed to her. To Anna, open when you need it most. Anna's heart paused for a second. She would recognize that handwriting anywhere, and it was her mother's. For a moment, she thought of putting the letter back. Maybe she wasn't ready to know what it said. Maybe it was better not to. But there was something about that night, the relentless rain, the crushing exhaustion, that made her realize she had already hit rock bottom. There was nowhere left to go but up. With a heavy breath, Anna unfolded the paper. Her hands were sweaty. Her eyes, already wet with tears, struggled to focus on the first few words. And then she began to read. The first lines of the letter felt like a whisper from another time. "My dearest Anna, if you're reading this, it means life feels too heavy right now. I wish I could be there holding your hand. But even from afar, I want you to know you have never been, and never will be, alone." Anna pressed the letter against her chest for a moment, trying to hold back the lump rising in her throat. It was like hearing her mother's voice echoing through the empty room. She returned her eyes to the next lines. "You were born on a stormy night just like this one. While the world outside seemed to fall apart, you were my ray of light, my divine gift." Anna smiled without even realizing it. Her mother used to tell her stories about the night she was born. But now every word seemed to carry a deeper meaning, like a secret message meant for this very moment of despair. The letter continued. "Life isn't made of easy victories, Anna. It's in the losses, the stumbles, the silence, that the gold of our soul is refined. You were made for something greater, my daughter, something you can't yet see but that already pulses within you." She felt the tears fall, quiet and steady. Each sentence touched exactly the place where her pain lived. "When you feel like you can't go on, close your eyes and remember who you are. You are a part of me. You are built from the faith of those who came before us. You were made to walk through storms and to bloom after them." Anna couldn't explain it, but for the first time in a long time, something inside her began to shift. It was subtle, almost unnoticeable, like the first hint of warmth breaking through a cold morning. And then, the letter revealed something even more unexpected. "I know that one day you'll feel lost. When that day comes, I want you to look for what we once hid together in Grandma's attic. Inside that blue box, there's more than just memories. There are answers. Anna frowned. The blue box? She could barely remember it. Wasn't it just some childhood game? What could possibly be inside it now? And why would her mother mention it? In this letter, her heart began to race. Suddenly, that aimless night had found a purpose. She had to find the blue box. She had to discover what else her mother had left for her. And maybe, just maybe, she would discover herself in the process. The rain was still tapping against the roof when Anna parked her car in front of her grandmother's old house. It was as if time hadn't touched the place. The same wooden porch, the overgrown garden, and the rusted swing where she'd spent so many childhood afternoons. As she climbed the creaking steps, her heart pounded unevenly. The letter was still folded in her pocket like a talisman. She didn't know exactly what she was looking for, only that she had to find it. The door creaked open. The scent of aged wood and old memories wrapped around her like a blanket. Every corner of that house seemed to echo with fragments of her childhood. Laughter, hurried footsteps, beloved voices, now gone. She climbed the stairs in silence, led by a vague but persistent memory. The attic was a place she had avoided for years. It held something sacred and heavy, as if every object stored there carried stories that had never been told. She pushed open the old wooden door. Dust swirled in the weak light streaming through a skylight. The air smelled of time. Time that had stopped. She walked among boxes and furniture covered in white sheets as if they were asleep. And then, in a corner, behind a pile of old photo albums, she saw it, the blue box. It was small, made of wood painted in a faded sky blue, sealed with a golden ribbon worn thin by time. Anna knelt down. Her hands trembled as she pulled it closer. For a moment, she hesitated. What if it was just a childhood keepsake? Something meaningless? But her mother's voice echoed within her. There's more than just memories. With a steady breath, she opened the lid. Inside, everything was just as she remembered, or almost. Old photos of her and her mother, drawings they had made together, a necklace with a small cross pendant. But underneath that first layer of memories, there was a new envelope, one she had never seen before. Her name was written on it, by hand, to Anna. If you've come this far, it means you still believe. Anna's heart paused. Carefully, she opened the envelope. Inside was a second letter, but this time it wasn't advice, it was a confession. Anna, there's something I never told you, something I saved for when you were ready. Before you were born, I too went through darkness. I felt lost, worthless, without direction. But a miracle happened in my life, one that brought me back, and that miracle was you. Tears began to fall quietly from Anna's eyes. You were my healing, and now I know you need your own. Inside this box, beyond the memories, I've left something for you, something that helped me when no one else could. Beneath the false bottom of the box, Anna found a small, worn notebook. Inside were prayers, words of strength, excerpts from books, even personal notes from her mother. But what caught her attention the most was a folded piece of paper with a single sentence written on it. When you're about to give up, remember, even the smallest thread of faith can stitch a brand new future. Anna pressed the note against her chest. It felt like her mother was right there, guiding every step, and the storm within her was finally beginning to clear. The notebook rested on the kitchen table, open to the first page. Anna traced her fingers over her mother's handwriting, as if touching something sacred. There was no doubt now. This was more than an emotional keepsake. It was a compass. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every page she read felt like a light switched on inside the darkness she'd been carrying. Her mother's notes ranged from prayers and scripture verses to deeply personal reflections, moments of loss, disappointment, failure, but always followed by something surprising: hope. On page 17, a highlighted sentence caught her eye. You don't need to understand everything right now. You just need to keep going. Anna closed her eyes. Maybe she had been trying too hard to make sense of everything, forcing answers where only patience belonged. Life wasn't a puzzle to be solved all at once. It was a story, and she was still in the middle of the chapter. The next morning, Anna did something she hadn't done in years. She went for a walk with no destination. She left her phone at home. She wanted silence. Presence. The air was crisp, the sky clear, and the streets looked a little less gray than usual. Maybe the streets hadn't changed. Maybe she had. Without realizing it, she ended up in front of the small church her mother used to attend. It was open. She stepped inside quietly, sat in the last pew and just sat there. She didn't pray, she didn't cry, she simply was. And then, as if someone had softly called her name, she looked toward the altar. There was a small plaque with the words, "Faith doesn't take you out of the storm, it teaches you how to dance in the rain." A soft smile formed on her lips. For the first time in months, she felt something close to peace. Days later, Anna began to write. In her mother's notebook, she now filled pages with her own thoughts about pain, guilt, the letter, the box, faith. She started visiting the orphanage where her mother used to volunteer. At first, she just watched. Then, she read stories to the children. Eventually, she began to listen to theirs, and she realized something profound. The pain, though, different, spoke the same language, but hope was universal. Months passed. Anna's life didn't turn into a fairy tale. There were still hard days, still doubts, but now there was also purpose. She reconnected with old friends. She made peace with her father, whom she'd barely spoken to since her mother's passing. She created a blog where she shared pieces of the notebook. Thousands of people began following her words. She received messages like, "I needed this today. You put into words exactly what I've been feeling. You saved me without even knowing it." And whenever she doubted herself, she returned to the sentence on the last page of the notebook. Even the smallest thread of faith can stitch a brand new future. It was an ordinary afternoon. Anna was sorting through the last boxes from her mother's old closet, determined to finally donate whatever wasn't essential. Amid papers, recipes, and old cards, something fell to the floor. The notebook. It had landed open at the back cover, but something was different. There was a small flap taped inside and tucked within it. A yellow envelope, her name written on the front. Anna, her hands trembled. She sat down on the floor. The silence of the house seemed to hold its breath with her. Carefully, she opened it and found another letter, written in the handwriting she would recognize even in the dark. "My daughter, if you're reading this, it means you made it this far, and I know it wasn't easy. What I wanted most in life was to protect you from all pain, but I've learned over time that I can't. No one can. But you can get through it all. Because there's strength inside you that you haven't even discovered yet. And if life ever pushes you toward the edge, remember this: faith is what teaches you to fly. Anna, inside my drawer, in the little red box, there's something I left for you. A seed, maybe a new beginning. With eternal love, Mom." Anna stood up with a jolt. She ran to the drawer, opened it, and there it was. The red box. Inside it, a necklace. Simple, with a small star-shaped pendant. And beneath the lining, a folded piece of paper with a name and phone number. Sister Teresa, Esperanza Viva Shelter. The following week, Anna visited the center. It was a shelter for women facing violence and abandonment. The director, Sister Teresa, recognized her mother's name instantly. "She used to come here every month, you know? She always said one day she'd bring her daughter to continue the work." Anna didn't know what to say. She hadn't known her mother had left behind not just a legacy, but an invitation. She stayed the entire day, and then she came back, and came back again. 1 year later, Anna shut down the blog. She created a video channel called Beyond the Letter. There, she shared stories of resilience, faith, and real-life new beginnings. She inspired, moved, and gave voice to stories that had long remained silent. The necklace with the star pendant became her symbol, and the opening line of every video was always the same. When everything feels lost, maybe what saves you is a letter, or the faith of someone who came before you. Thank you for watching until the end. If you felt something special, share this video with someone who might need to hear this today. And if you'd like to keep receiving stories that warm the soul and awaken faith, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and stay with us. Sometimes all we need is to remember that even the smallest thread of faith can stitch together a new future. Until the next story.